Let's go ahead. Let's kick off the recording so that the rest of our members that are not in attendance can watch this and hear from all of our candidates. And we'll go ahead and we'll upload this after this event to our YouTube channel. It'll also be available. We're live streaming onto our Facebook channel. And I know we've got a couple of people that are watching that way at the moment, but just want to say thank you for everyone for joining us for our Senate District 7 endorsement meeting. And we're lucky to have all of our candidates here from Senate District 7, which we're part of, which is formerly District 9 that Alameda was part of. But this is specifically for the seat that will be vacated by Senator Skinner this year, who is terming out. So we have a lot of great candidates that have taken the time to speak to our membership and to let us know a little bit more about them. So tonight's meeting is an endorsement forum. So what does that mean? We'll ask the candidates a series of questions developed by the board for the City of Alameda Democratic Club, and that we feel are among priority within our district. The candidates will get 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and then a 1-minute closing statement. And then if time allows, we'll try to do like a lightning round section where we'll try to mention a topic or issue and just get a simple yes or no or a one-word sort of answer, hopefully, if we have time. This isn't a formal debate, but rather an opportunity to learn more about what makes you distinctive and representative to the Democratic Party. So is there any questions? Are we all good? All right, awesome. So please note, we won't be taking questions from our members via the chat as we are time constrained. However, if you do have a question you want to address, we encourage you to contact the candidate afterwards directly. We found them very responsive via email. So, and with that, I will start us off. So opening statements, we randomized the order. And so 2 minutes. Who are you and why we should vote for you? And so first up, we have Jesse Araguen. And before we start, let me just go ahead and invite my meeting timer here that I forgot to do before I started. But it should be joining our thing. There it is. I'm going to pin that so it is visible. And first up, we have Jesse Araguen. And I'll go ahead and start it whenever you start speaking.
Good evening. I'm running for state senate because the East Bay needs bold and experienced leadership to address our biggest challenges. And I'm the son and grandson of farm workers that worked in the fields of the Central Valley. Growing up in poverty and facing housing insecurity inspired me to dedicate my life to fight for economic and social justice. And at the age of 10, I was marching with Dolores Huerta, who has endorsed my campaign for Senate, to name a street in San Francisco after my hero, Cesar Chavez, and I've been at it ever since. As a first-generation college student, it was the state's investment in our public education system that gave me the opportunity to achieve the California dream. And I'm running for state senate to protect and expand the California dream for future generations. I currently serve as mayor of Berkeley, the first Latino elected and the youngest person in a century. And I'm proud to have led my city through a period of transformative change. We're building thousands of new housing units, promoting compassionate, effective solutions to homelessness. We've managed COVID. We protected our neighbors from displacement. We've advanced bold climate action, and we've led on policing and public safety reform. I'm also the president of ABAG, our regional government, where I led the development of our regional housing plan. I also serve on the San Francisco Bay Conservation Development Commission, where I'm working to protect our bay and make sure our region is adapting to the threat of climate change and rising sea levels. I know an issue important, very, very important to the city of Alameda. The president of the Alameda County Mayor's Conference, where I work with mayors from throughout the county on issues related to homelessness. And I'm honored to have the endorsement of your mayor, Marilyn Ejiascraft, and school board member, Jennifer Williams. I believe that government can be a positive force for change. And I want to bring my lived and professional experience, my deep knowledge of the issues, and deeply rooted progressive values to make positive change for the region and the state. I have a proven track record of elected experience to achieve real legislative victories, and I hope to continue that fight in the state senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jovanka Beckles.
Good evening, everyone. Jovanka Beckles, she, her pronouns. I'm a former 2-term Richmond City Council member, current AC Transit Director, Black, Latina, queer immigrant from Panama. I'm a labor and community activist and a rank and file Teamster working as a mental health professional for over 34 years. Because I live at the intersection of so many marginalized communities, I'm the best candidate to represent the East Bay. And representation matters. As diverse as the East Bay is, we have not had a Black woman, any person of color for that matter, representing us in the state Senate in almost 30 years. Right now in California, only 2 out of 40 senators are Black. Those of us who believe in justice and equity should and must do everything we can to remedy this injustice. The many policies that I wrote and passed are based on my lived and work experience and have received national attention for their boldness and life-changing impacts. These include banning the box for returning citizens. I wrote and passed the first rent control policy in California in 30 years. I raised the minimum wage for Richmond workers. I taxed, sued, and beat Chevron and significantly reduced crime in Richmond. Richmond is better because we elected myself and other corporate-free candidates. I take no money from corporations and I never will. Voters are excited to see a candidate like me, a working class person who looks like them. This excitement will bring them out to vote. Our democracy, our freedom, and civil rights are under attack. We need solidarity in this class struggle. And we will win when we come together. Because I bring our communities together, because I'm trusted and I come from a place of love for our young people, our community, our planet, and a deep love for justice. Join our movement to bring about equity and justice in California, to bring about housing for all, free healthcare and childcare for all, quality and free education for all, enshrining same-sex marriage into the Constitution, seamless transit, and environmental protections. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ernesto Falcon.
Yeah. When my parents came to the United States, California was the land of opportunity. They lived the California dream of buying a home and raising a family. I'm running because I see the opportunity that they had and that I had slipping away from my own kids. We deserve abundant housing and safe communities with great schools. We need to break from business as usual that has denied us that future. We have not built enough housing in this state, and the artificial scarcity is what gives us high rents, high mortgages, and our homelessness challenge. Under current state law, for example, anyone can file a CEQA lawsuit to kill a housing project. So we have to think about reforms of CEQA, especially when we need to build affordable housing led by nonprofit developers. We can fix this. I am a candidate committed to reforming CEQA for the purposes of building those homes in this state. I'm also running on increasing funding for public safety. We need more uniforms on patrol. Our communities are seeing double-digit rises in violent crime and surges in things like anti-Asian hate crimes. I hear it on the campaign trail from parents who are scared to let their kids play outside, from seniors who are scared to go grocery shopping. And I talked to officers who are working overtime to make up for staff shortages today. We can't continue like this. Better funded public safety will restore our communities, reduce 911 response times, improve training, and attract new officers who will look like our communities that they serve. I've worked as a legislative staffer and an advocate for 20 years. I've drafted and passed major legislation in Sacramento and in Congress. Most recently, our $7 billion broadband infrastructure law that will end digital redlining in Oakland in the coming years. So if you send me to Sacramento, I will use the decades of legislative experience that I have to restore the California dream for the next generation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Dan Kalb.
Hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks. Greetings, everybody. My name is Dan Kalb. I'm my third term on the Oakland City Council. Very proud of the work that we've been able to accomplish in Oakland over the years and proud of my record. I'm a longtime public interest advocate. And after I became an elected official, I did not stop being a public interest advocate. I still was in that mold. I have more than 30 years of policy experience. And I know that being a state legislator is not a high profile position. The real work to be an effective state legislator is the intricate, behind the scenes, often tedious work on very complex policy matters. And that's the kind of work that I'm very good at. If you look at my record as a city council member for the past 11 years, or my record before that when I worked for the Union of Concerned Scientists as a state legislative advocate, working in the entire soup to nuts process on state legislation for over 10 years, you'll know that what I said is true. I know how to get things done. I know how to draft legislation, work the complexities, build the coalitions. It's one thing to have a position on something. It's one thing to talk the talk, but I've walked the walk at the state level on state legislation over and over again. And I've worked on complex policy matters at the Oakland City Council, whether it's public safety, police oversight, affordable housing. I'm very proud that EBHO, the leading advocacy group in the East Bay on affordable housing, identified me as one of their affordable housing champions. And I'm very proud of the work I've done on environmental issues. I'm the environmental leader in the Oakland City Council. That's why so many environmental leaders and clean tech leaders are supporting my candidacy here. I'm excited about this opportunity. I know I could be an effective I know I could be an effective state legislator as I've been on the city council. And I'm very proud to have the endorsement of your mayor, Marilyn Ezzy Ashcroft, as well as council member Tracy Jensen, and many other former elected officials and current elected officials throughout the district and throughout the state. I'd be honored to have your support and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Catherine Leiber.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you tonight. My wife, who's a special ed teacher at Alameda High, and I moved to Berkeley 23 years ago to start a family. We have 2 kids who are now grown. We spent a lot of time on the soccer fields at Alameda Point, and now we get to enjoy the brewery out there. So we feel lucky. I've done physical work my whole life. I took time out to earn a master's degree in sculpture. But I'm a gardener by profession. It pays better. I now work full-time leading a union of 32,000 people who are predominantly women of color. They clean dorm rooms, they empty bedpans, they work opposite shifts from their partners so that someone's always got the kids, all of which has kept me grounded in the practical. I understand the forces at work in our society that cause people to fall further behind. And I know the work it takes to change that. Together, the people I work with have protected our paychecks, our healthcare, and our jobs. And my focus on equal pay for equal work continues. I am right now working to place on the ballot a measure that would extend California's basic labor standards to the more than 200,000 people who work at the University of California. Currently, women don't have the right to enforce the state's contract employer. The benefits of equal higher pay accumulate over time. We know this, just as the harms of being underpaid and low income compound over time. So when Latinas make 61 cents on the dollar, they have less for retirement, less for a home. And this has to be part of our conversations about housing and thriving neighborhoods. I'm running for state senate to work for the people who are focused on what's for supper, how they'll pay their rent, and keeping their kids away from trouble and helping them to succeed. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Sandre Swanson.
Thank you so much. My grandfather on my mother's side settled in Alameda in 1940, and my grandfather on my father's side settled in Oakland, California in 1940. Our youngest daughter graduated from Alameda High, and my family has had a business in Alameda where my grandfather settled for more than 50 years. I was elected 3 times by the people in Alameda to represent them in the state assembly. I'm the only former member of the legislature running in this race, and I encourage you to go to my website and look at all the bills that I have passed. I was Barbara Lee's former chief of staff. I think I have a record of accomplishment, and I fought to make sure that we rescue our children from human traffickers very successfully. And I'm looking for an opportunity to address crime. I think that the crime is out of control in many of our communities, and I want to make sure we bring humanitarian solutions to the question of the homeless. I think that we can solve that problem, but I believe that you have to be committed to doing that. I am very interested in becoming a member of the Assembly. And then I was very interested, and now I'm very interested in becoming a member of the Senate to continue the work that we started. I believe that I have a number of accomplishments that prove that the promises that you make on the campaign trail, you can keep. I was chair of the Assembly Labor Committee. I have an outstanding record for working families. Many years, I received 100% ratings for my votes for working families. And so I encourage you to take a look at my website, look at all the laws that I've been able to pass, and consider my campaign. I'm running on my experience. We have a lot of good candidates actually in this race. And so I don't think it's about that, but if you agree with some of the things that I've accomplished, then I would ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next question. So the California legislature just wrapped, and Newsom signed nearly 1,000 bills and vetoed 169 this year. Which among these state Senate bills were you most pleased to see signed, and which ones were you most disappointed that didn't make his signature? And first up is Sanjay Swanson.
I was disappointed that he didn't sign the bill that would have allowed for unemployment benefits for strikers. I thought that bill was a good bill, and if I was in the legislature, I would have voted for it. The right to strike and to protest is part of our fundamental democratic rights, and I think that we need to protect those in every way we can. There are a lot of corporate interests that, of course, want to make it as difficult as possible to strike. I have never crossed the picket line. I have always supported working families, and in the legislature, I spent a lot of time supporting legislation to protect wages against theft and for leave policies, for workers, protecting pensions for workers, and I think that many people see the purpose of government as operating in their interests as a first obligation, and I would agree with that. I've been in public policy for 38 years, and I believe it's an honorable job, and I've learned in that time that legislators can make a difference if they're committed and follow their passion. My passion has been children, so many of the things that I've done has been to support children and families. And so I would use this opportunity again in the legislature to make sure we take care of children and families.
Thank you so much. Next up, same question, Jesse Arreguin.
Thank you. So the governor actually just announced he signed a package of housing bills, one of which I'm particularly excited about would allow people to subdivide accessory dwelling units to create ownership opportunities. And I think given the shortage of affordable ownership, this may unlock opportunities for entry-level homeownership throughout the state of California. He also signed a bill, Senate Bill 4, that would allow for churches to have streamlined approval for affordable housing on faith-based property. I do believe, yes, in God's backyard. And I know that there's been a lot of work in Alameda to address housing affordability and homelessness, including providing services and care for persons experiencing homelessness and medically frail seniors. I strongly support all those efforts. And the reason I'm running for state Senate is to bring my 18 years of elected experience, my deep understanding of the issues, to help fight for more resources for Alameda and for the East Bay, to develop stronger partnerships to address issues like homelessness and housing affordability. I'm not afraid to fight for more housing. I'm not afraid to fight for more affordable housing, compassionate solutions to homelessness. I guess one law that I was disappointed the governor did not sign was the law that would have established a cap on co-payments for insulin drugs to $35. And we need to lower the cost of prescription drugs, life-saving drugs, and we need universal single-payer healthcare in the state. Those are things I will fight for in Sacramento. I think healthcare is a basic human right, and everyone should have access to affordable healthcare and life-saving drugs. And I hope that these legislative efforts can be advanced in the next session.
Thank you so much. Next up is Jovanka Beckles.
I'll start by the ones that I like that he signed. I do like the housing bills that he signed. I think that it's so important. It's an important and critical way for us to reduce this homeless crisis that we're currently facing. I also like that he signed the bills to ensure that that our privacy remains as such, private information. What I don't like, I'm very disappointed about, is the governor vetoing the unemployment insurance bill, which is something that is on my platform. I believe that it's the best way that we can be sure that employers come to the bargaining table and bargain in good faith. But right now, when they have this stranglehold on employees who are poor and can't really afford to strike, but want to stand in solidarities with their siblings, this would have been such a game changer for the labor movement. So I'm very disappointed that he vetoed that. I'm also really disappointed as a queer woman. I'm incredibly disappointed that he vetoed protections for transgender kids. That was a huge injustice. And as a person of color, particularly with my skin hue, I'm incredibly disappointed that he vetoed Senator Wahhab's caste system bill.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ernesto Falcon.
Thank you for the question. So on the bills he signed, I think the housing bills writ large have all been fantastic. Each gives us one more step towards progress, and most notably, my Assembly member Buffy Wicks's slight edit to CEQA that has gotten in the way of student housing in Berkeley. I'm glad that she was able to make that through. And I think one that has have a profound impact, and I have a real personal connection with, is the AB1, which is the Legislative Staff Union. Having been a legislative staffer and knowing the lifestyle of very low pay, fire at will, and the amount of unfair pressure employers who are legislators have over the staff, I am happy to see that California is leading the way to give the people who go into public service in a very difficult environment the power to be protected and be able to organize. That and the last bill I would say that was a positive. Some of my old organization I worked at, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, passed the Delete Act, which enhances our privacy, and once again California continues to lead the way. I would say similarly on bills he vetoed that I was particularly disappointed with. There was a law that would have put an ombudsman for private public records request. This is the process where citizenry and the press are able to know what their government is up to and to understand when they are up to no good. Much like legislative staff needed a union to protect themselves, there are a need for always sunshine in government, and it is unfortunate we did not get that bill.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Dan Kalb.
Thank you. I would say that he signed, like I said, over 1,000 bills. So there are many good bills that he signed, and hard to just name a few, but I'm aware of a package of climate bills that he signed, and he didn't sign all of them, but he signed most of them. And so, and some of these we've been working on for years. And so I'm very pleased that he signed a number of bills that created more disclosure, more corporate accountability, and more renewable energy in the state. And there's a lot more we need to do, and he did veto one bill in the climate world, but we have a lot to do. And since my background and expertise is working on climate issues, climate and energy, and other environmental issues, I want to take what's already there and move it to another level, because there's so much more work that needs to happen at the state level when it comes to climate change, clean energy, and environmental sustainability, and a range of issues. That's what I have expertise on, and that's what I'm going to be one of the things I'll be a leader on. When it comes to veto, he vetoed a social housing bill, and that was extremely disappointing. I mean, Senator Member Alex Lee, as well as Senator Wahab, had put forward various social housing bills. The bill that got to the governor was kind of watered down to be kind of a pilot-ish kind of thing and more limited, and he still vetoed it. That's very disappointing and very counterproductive. Social housing is a very much a promise for the future. We should have let that program go forward and then build on it from there. I think anything we can do to get more range of mixed income housing would have been a good thing. And I think that was a mistake on the governor's part, and I hope to be an advocate for social housing and an advocate, as I always have been, for affordable housing overall. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Catherine Leiberger.
Yeah, there are a lot of bills. I think a few housing bills, and certainly labor bills that I'm excited about. Certainly, I'm happy that my bill got signed that actually gives unionized workers at the University of California the opportunity to stand up for non-union workers who are doing contracted work, exactly the same work at UC. It allows them, it gives them standing in court to ensure that this non-union worker is getting the same pay and benefits as the unionized worker at UC. I think it's the first time in history or in the US that an individual worker has that right. So that's exciting. On other stuff, certainly AB1, Capitol staff having the right to form a union. Expanding paid sick days from 3 to 5 is huge. 5 is still not enough. It's not a lot, but it actually matters for working families. Raising the minimum wage at hospitals. There's one that maybe flew under the radar a little bit, but Assembly Member Liz Ortega got a bill passed that gives students a chance to actually learn what their rights are at work. So before kids really leave school and hit the workforce in a big way, they already know their rights. I am glad that SB 555, Wahab's social housing bill, did get passed. It's a study, but I think important. Importantly, also SB 567, it builds on the Tenant Protection Act and expands on that to really protect low-income renters. Ones I'm disappointed about, of course, unemployment for striking workers. It seems like that should have been an easy one to sign. And then, of course, I was just shocked to see that he did not sign a bill protecting trans kids. It just kind of the ones that really should have just been no-brainers. I still wonder what the explanation is, but a great year.
Thank you so much for everyone's answers. All right, next question is up on housing. So I had the opportunity, I've seen most of you at one of the organizations that I'm also in. We hosted a housing forum, and I'm glad to see everyone's back again here at this forum. But specifically on affordable housing, it continues to be an issue here in Alameda. Alameda is working hard on the local level. First Bay Area city to submit an approved housing element. We have resources for the unhoused, specifically the Village of Love and Dignity Village, which we just opened, that rapid construction project. And we're also launching a pilot for guaranteed basic income in Alameda. What recent state legislation do you expect will have an impact to improve this issue? What more do you feel needs to be done? What should be prioritized from the state policy level and legislative perspective? And so the first person in our randomized order that we have is Jovanka Beckles. Oh, still muted.
All right, let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay, great. Well, you know, I've had the opportunity to see most of I've had the opportunity to see so much housing growth in Richmond. We hosted so many different housing forums, and really glad to see the community coming together again. But specifically with regard to affordable housing, it does continue to be an issue in Alameda and throughout the region. And so that's why I believe that, I know there was a long question. I believe that there are several housing bills that are on the floor that I absolutely support. I really appreciate the city of Alameda with your guaranteed basic income, we're putting that forward, because that is that's one of the platform issues that that I support. Other housing bills that I believe is important for us as a region is, I think that there has to be better collaboration with regard to like a region-wide effort to build more social housing. I support, Assemblymember Lee's bill in doing so. I believe we need to have, we have to be able to pass legislation that helps people not only stay in their homes, but also to be able to get housing. And so some of those policies that are currently on the floor that I support includes people being able to use their, what do you call it? The, oh gosh, their, when you, why I'm at a loss of word, when you, your credit report, that's it. To be able to use your credit report everywhere you go. And that should, they shouldn't have to pay $45, $50 every single time. And there's so much more, and wish I had more time, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ernesto Falcon.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the thing with housing bills in California, led by our housing champions such as Senator Scott Wiener and Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, is these are all iterative processes. We'll see how they're implemented. We'll see how effective they are. And then we'll have to continue to kind of amend and refine. That said, I think the most obvious thing that's still missing in the grand scheme of this is the fact that we can't get the private market, nonprofit, and public sector entities of constructing homes at full blast at the pace that needs to be, without thinking through how easy it is for CEQA to be utilized to block low-income housing, below-market housing near high-income neighborhoods. It's the number one place where it happens, and it is one of those things where, and I've spoken with nonprofit developers who specialize in building apartment complexes that are totally focused on below-market rate rents, and their margins are very tight. I'm very familiar with how business models and market structure and cash flow works from my work in the infrastructure space. And the slightest lawsuit, the asymmetry there of raising costs by several $100,000s out of the blue, obliterates any possibility of truly deploying affordable housing. We're not going to be able to outspend that. We have to do structural reforms. And I think there are a number of ideas that have been presented that I would take up as a legislator. I think we should get rid of anonymous lawsuits under CEQA. I think we need to raise what's called judicial standing, the level of threshold you need to actually gain access to the courts as a means of reducing the number of lawsuits. And there are areas that we don't really disturb the environment, yet we still require an enormous amount of review and invite litigation. And that's infill construction in already developed areas. I think we should just exempt that outright. That would be one of the most beneficial changes for the East Bay to result, I would say, in a housing boom that we deserve.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Dan Kalb.
Here we go. Thanks for that question. And like I think I said before, I'm very proud of the fact that EBCO has identified me as one of their affordable housing champions because of my work to make sure more affordable housing gets built in Oakland and to protect tenants from displacement and making sure people who live here can continue to live here, even though the cost of living is going up. I do support social housing. I'm sorry that Alex Lee's bill got vetoed this year. I will be a champion for social housing to work with him and others to move that forward. I was a big supporter of SB4, of course, which we already talked about a little while ago. When it comes to getting more housing built, especially more below market housing, I believe we need to, most of that has to do with funding. Not all of it, but most of it. And so I intend to bring back, as former state senator, then state senator Jim Bell did it a couple of times, is to bring back a modified form of redevelopment, focusing much more heavily on below market housing. That would create dedicated funding for our communities, cities and counties, in the right way to focus on below market housing that is almost always in desperately need of funding at all levels of government. That is absolutely critical. I also want to make sure that we reform some of our state laws that make it harder to protect our renters. There are at least 2 state laws that prevent local jurisdictions from protecting more renters. We need to reform or repeal those laws in a smart way. And we need to look at the jobs housing imbalance. There are a number of locations around the state, subregions, where there are a lot of jobs and not enough housing. Those are the places where we need to focus on pushing more housing and making sure the local jurisdictions do what they need to do. And if they're not, the state's going to have to step in. Again, a strong supporter of community land trusts. Below market housing. I've worked with nonprofit housing developers for decades, even before I was on the city council, and I will continue to be a passionate advocate to establish policy and budget decisions that get more below market housing built for all our communities throughout the state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Catherine Lieberger.
Sure. So things that I think that worked this year and that I want to see more of course, I mentioned social housing bill, continuing to really expand that. And we want to make sure that, we get it right, that we aren't building social housing that then secretly becomes a pathway to more, a way for more higher income housing and out of reach market rate housing, right? That it stays affordable. Need to continue to expand renter protections, made great progress this year. We need to keep it up. And then I'd say yes to like the yes in God's backyard, YIGB, SB4. I think that that's a really good model. Related to that, what I'd like to see more of are actually standards on real estate investments for nonprofits and public institutions, because we can't continue to see public dollars invested in private and transitioned into private profit and private pockets. It has the effect, I think, of worsening our housing crisis when you have an institution, for example, the University of California, investing in market rate all around the campus and raising the cost to housing when they could actually invest in affordable. That's something that I'm actually working on now, is trying to get the University of California to do that. We need a massive infusion, of course, continued in below market rate housing. It's no joke. Affordable is really expensive to build. It should not be. Finally, on the other side of the ledger, we've got to continue to raise wages. Another example, I talked about a lot of labor bills, but it would have been amazing to see it signed into law, the ability of home care workers to bargain collectively across the whole state instead of county by county. Home care workers do essential work, but make the least pay out of almost anyone in the state. We've got to address it.
Thank you so much. And we have next up is Andre Swanson.
Well, thank you very much. When I was representing Alameda in the state assembly, I opposed the governor's proposal to eliminate redevelopment funds, and I did that because I warned my colleagues that you would affect affordable housing as well as the homeless. During my 38 years of public policy, I've held different positions, and I would say in Alameda, I served on the Alameda Reuse and Redevelopment Authority. I was the vice chair of that authority at the most challenging period when Alameda was facing with base closure, and we had to figure out how to develop a third of the island. We're proud of the fact that one of the early developments that we accomplished was providing space for the homeless. We also were able to negotiate with the Navy housing so that housing could be made available to Alameda residents. And we had to fight all the challenges of cleanup. We had to deal with all the environmental concerns. We had to protect the brown pelicans. We had to protect the lease terns, and we had to make sure that we developed the land in a way that we could have affordable housing on the land. It was a lot of work and it was challenging, but as a community, we did it, and I was part of that. And if you visit some of the former military land, you will find shopping and housing that exists on that property. We also did all we could to make sure we developed small businesses out at the base. And so I am very proud of the fact that this was public policy that continues to work. It was a 20-year plan, and many of the benefits are being realized today. And so I'm asking people to look at my record and see the things that I've actually been involved with as you consider me for the state Senate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then finally, for this question, we have Jesse Arreguin.
Well, thank you. I first want to thank the leadership of Alameda and the community of Alameda for your leadership in addressing our housing and homelessness crisis. I was a very strong supporter of Dignity Village and helped support efforts to secure state funding to move that project forward. Really want to commend Mayor Ashcraft and the council for their leadership, and oppose the measure that would have stopped the project at Crab Cove. So this issue is personal to me. I, growing up in San Francisco, faced housing insecurity and homelessness. I'm a lifelong renter. I'm a millennial. Unless we expand affordable ownership opportunities, I will never be able to live. I want to own a home and live long-term in the community that I represent. And so I want to go to Sacramento to continue my pro-housing leadership. Not just in the city of Berkeley. We're building 7,000 new units, 1,000 of which are permanently affordable, thanks to the housing bond that we passed. That housing bond is exhausted, unfortunately. Measure A1, our county housing bond, there are no funds available to support affordable housing projects in Alameda and countywide. That's why at ABAG, our regional government, which I chair, I'm working to put a 10 to 20 billion affordable housing bond on the regional ballot to provide funding for projects in Alameda and Alameda County. And with respect to bills, one bill that I want to emphasize, Assembly Bill 1285, which the governor just signed, which would prioritize people that live in encampments for permanent supportive housing through our coordinated entry system. This is a bill I worked on with our Assembly member Buffy Wicks, with the Bay Area Council and others, identifying that one of the biggest challenges to actually ending street homelessness is getting people through the process and getting them prioritized for affordable housing. I think the work that's been done through SB 330 to streamline production, through Senate Bill 9 to allow for more affordable, more housing in single-family residential neighborhoods. AB 1307 was talked about to streamline student housing production. I'm working to build student housing at People's Park. I want to be a housing champion in Sacramento.
Thank you so much. Next up, our next question is on, when I think our timer just, nope, there it goes. Technical glitches with this timer. Next up is a question on climate crisis. So our city recognizes the urgency and the importance of the climate crisis. We are an island, of course, so it's sort of an imminent issue for a lot of us. California has aggressive goals to reach net zero carbon solutions by 2045, but many worry or are curious about the realities of the implementation and support of these major initiatives. Do you think California can reach its goal? And how do you plan to focus on getting them an implementation at the level for our district, for this district? For example, even in climate-minded city, we hear concerns about initiatives like electrification, specifically the cost, the electrical grid, or the limited technical workers of this expertise. So this is sort of a major issue that Alameda cares about. And so first up on this question order list, we have Ernesto Falcon.
And just the fundamental question is, can California reach its goal of zero emissions?
Yeah. So do you think California can reach its goal? What do you plan to focus on and getting to that goal? And when implementation do you expect to do within our district?
Yep. No, thank you. I just wanted to make sure, just wanted to clarify the question. I think we are not on track yet. But I think we can, if we change the way we build. For example, high-speed rail. The fact that high-speed rail is struggling the way it is, and we recently received a grant from the Biden administration to kind of continue the project, to continue to expand. But it is under an awful lot of challenge, and we need to figure out ways to streamline it, to expand upon it, because rail and transit are really the number one ways we're going to reduce our main contributor to CO2 emissions, which is traffic, cars. We also need someone at the California Department of Transportation that is focused on bike infrastructure. We actually don't have anyone there. They are focused on developing the highways and the roads. They're focused on cars. And so that kind of undermines our overall goals. And I would actually work towards having someone appointed that agency whose priority is to look at our bike infrastructure holistically as a means with just as much a priority as we think about cars. Simply because at the end of the day, we need to give people alternatives from driving in every way, not just transit, but also be able to build homes near where they work. We need to encourage remote work and discourage the mandates a lot of employers are putting on employees to come in 3 or 4 times a week. That is unnecessary. It's actually been proven that corporations are more productive by adopting remote work and hybrid work and favoring the quality of life that people get. So the fewer ways we can get people off the road, fewer cars driving, and give people viable alternatives to explore that option is how I want to look at our infrastructure policy as a state senator. And we can lead by making sure the transition of BART is forward thinking. We're going to have to understand we will not have a world where people jam in the train to get down to San Francisco downtown. We're going to have to decouple transit fares and think about how public investment sustains BART in this new world where people are working and living in a very different way than they'd have in the past.
Thank you. Next up on the list is Dan Kalb.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, there are many things we need to do, and I probably can't list them all in just a couple minutes. But as you may know, that I used to work at a union of concerned scientists, so I actually was very involved in writing the laws that led to the policies that we're talking about right now. And I will continue to use my expertise in that matter. In fact, I will be a climate champion, not just a good vote, but someone who understands the intricacies and details of these issues. And that's why so many leaders in the environmental movement, climate justice movement, clean energy folks are supporting my candidacy. Whether it comes to building electrification, and we need to do more to kind of move our existing building stock to be all electric, as well as making sure new buildings are all electric, more renewables, and renewable energy, clean renewable energy has to be more than just small scale and more than just large scale. It's both. We can't pit one against the other. We need all of the above in order to get to our clean energy goals in this state. Electric vehicles, zero emission vehicles. We need to have a pathway to get to our zero emission vehicles. Just saying you can't sell them anymore in 12 years from now isn't going to quite do it in the time frame that we need. So we need more incentives to get us there. And incentives will have to. Sometimes you have to pay people or pay companies to do what they're supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, that's a reality, and it's absolutely critical we reduce our emissions overall. And reducing VMT, reducing vehicle miles traveled, is a fundamental part of being successful in terms of our greenhouse gas emission reductions. The heat trapping gases that GHGs are fundamentally pollution in every possible way, and we need to make sure we reduce them. We also need to make sure that the air quality co-benefits that we could get while we're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we also have an opportunity to reduce toxic air contaminants and other air quality health pollutants, and that we don't take advantage of that enough. And that's why I'm going to make sure that it's not just climate change and climate justice, but other environmental justice issues have to be done in tandem with climate work. All too often, they're separated, and I'm going to make sure we stick together and we do not throw our environmental justice communities under the bus. I will not let that happen. I will be a leader when it comes to all our policies on climate change.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Catherine Leiberger.
Sure. Can we get there? Or rather, can we get there in time? I have to think that we can. Everything we do absolutely matters. Are we on track? I'm scared. But I think that the key to getting there is actually getting everybody in. Everybody who can possibly be a part of getting us to net zero as fast as possible, I think, is how we get there. And so there are a couple ways to approach that. One is, when we talk about actually decreasing the emissions that come from our cars, from driving, over half of the people who drive the most, the gasoline super users, are low income people who can't afford to live near where they work. So we have to have a comprehensive solution that then enables everybody to be able to participate in drawing down emissions. So of course, it's got to involve housing solutions. It's got to involve transit solutions, transit that works for everybody and frequently enough so it's a realistic alternative when you've got the kind of life where you actually have to race around pretty quickly. But I know that we can get there. The other is making sure that everybody is willing to help. That means knowing that they're not going to be left behind in a green economy. There are good jobs to be had in a green economy, but we have to make sure that that happens. Otherwise, people who are making family-sustaining wages in a refinery now have no reason to go along with a transition if they feel like they're going to be left out of it. And we have seen that happen over and over again. So I'm really going to focus on that. I'm already involved in that. I'm part of California Labor for Climate Jobs, unions who come together to ensure that unions are part of the solution that we need. Finally, I'd say a couple other things. One other major thing is that environmental protection, as we race to build climate solutions, we have to protect our environment, especially when we think about places like Alameda, where you're an island and we're looking at rising sea levels.
Thank you so much. And next up on our list is Sanjay Swanson.
Well, thank you. I think that we may get there. Of course, as a legislator, I would do all I could to make sure that we do. As a representative of this district, I would like to concentrate on those things that are particular to the district. Alameda Power should remain independent, and we should support it in every way we can. We have a severe problem of emissions from trucks that are idle at our port and that are causing seniors and youth to have asthma problems. Those are practical questions that I think we have to address in this movement. Environmental efforts have to mean something to people locally for them to join in and support the mission. One serious environmental problem we have is the homeless. I mean, we have homeless near water streams, and there's waste, and it's unhealthy, and it's polluting our environment. This is a major, major problem. And unless we start addressing that problem, there'll be more problems that develop. These are issues that I think is important for us to keep in mind as we are talking about California being a leader in environmental issues. There are these environmental justice questions that are out there. When I was chair of the Labor Committee for the Assembly, I held hearings at all of our ports about truck emissions and the emissions from the boats that, and the ships themselves and how they affect communities, because many of the poor communities were located near these ports. And so these are issues that I think affect districts directly, and that's what I would be involved with.
Thank you so much. And then finally, or sorry, not finally, but next up is Jesse Araguin.
Thank you. Well, we have to get there, but I think we need to be bolder and we need to be quicker. I want to speak to a couple of issues specific to the city of Alameda. As noted, Alameda is an island. The issue of rising sea levels directly affect this community. As the East Bay's representative on the Bay Conservation Development Commission, I'm involved in efforts to try to advance sea level rise adaptation, not just in the East Bay, but regionally. And that's why I strongly support, I'm glad the governor signed Senate Bill 272, which would invest in BCDC the authority to set new standards for how cities should plan for sea level rise and to require cities to submit shoreline resilience plans to make sure that we're actually planning for the impact of rising sea levels. As chair of the Bay Area Regional Collaborative, I'm working to advocate for millions of dollars of state and federal resources so that we can actually do adaptation projects in the Bay Area. And I want to just thank Alameda for your leadership in addressing the issue of sea level rise. But there's a lot that we have to do. It's not just adaptation, it's how we're mitigating the impact of climate change and reducing emissions. We need to ban fossil fuel extraction in the state of California. That needs to happen. We need to advance towards electrification. I'm proud that Berkeley was the first city in the country to ban natural gas in new buildings. We need to make sure our new buildings are fully electric. We need to make sure that we're electrifying transportation, and we need to invest in public transportation because that is critical to getting cars off the road and reducing VMT. I was part of a team that helped advocate for $5 billion of state resources to keep BART and other transit operators running in the Bay Area. And I will support continued state operating funds for our transit agencies, including expanding our ferry system. Our ferries are an incredible resource, and I think that's something we need to continue to invest in as well. So whether it's transit-oriented development, electrification, our public transit, making sure we're reducing fossil fuel emissions, those are all things I want to fight for in Sacramento.
Thank you so much. And then finally, actually for real, is Jovanka Beckles.
All right, thank you. As the candidate here who has actually pledged, I'm a corporate-free candidate, always have been, always will be. I am not afraid to stand up to the fossil fuel industry. I've done so as a Richmond City Council member for years. We've sued Chevron for the impacts that they have contributed to with regard to climate change. We were the first city to be a part of that lawsuit. Now many cities in California are. I've been fighting. I've been a champion for climate change strategies. For example, as a Richmond City Council member, I championed transit-oriented development. The city of Alameda is a city that's right on the water. You are surrounded by water. You need to make, it's important that your elected officials understand the issues. And when I was on the Richmond City Council, we made sure to create policies that protect the environment as well as our residents from sea level change. What are some things that we have to focus on? We have to focus on infrastructure. As an current AC Transit board member, we have gotten awards for the level of work that we've done to reduce our carbon footprint. AC Transit is on its way to being a 100% zero emission bus fleet, the first in the nation to do that. I believe, and my platform talks about it, and I talk about it on the campaign trail. We absolutely, especially as a corporate-free candidate, takes no money from the fossil fuel industry. We absolutely have to transition away from an extractive economy and into a Green New Deal, a green economy, helping to have a just transition for the workers in those industries.
Thank you so much. All right. Next question is on the budget. We know California is dealing with technical glitches. The state budget has managed to cover a $32 billion deficit caused by this downturn in revenues. However, some argue the causes of that downturn could have a longer term impact on revenues in the future, and a budget deficit will continue that issue. What are your thoughts on how we should address this California state budget deficit? And first up on our list is Dan Kalb.
The state budget, that's all. First, let me say that anybody who's elected will pick what committees they want to be on or request certain committees. My top priority committee, my top choice committee is the Senate Budget Committee, and that's where a lot of the decisions will be made. And I know a lot of even though policies and bills are more high profile, the budget is often where the real work happens in terms of funding, and funding is so much in prioritization, and that's so much of what really tell everybody and show everybody what we really care about. So in terms of the budget, the budgets go in cycles, recessions go in cycles. We're probably not going to be able to change that on a permanent basis or in a big way, although we could take the edge off. We have a rainy day fund in in the state of California, and some cities have it as well. I support having a rainy day fund. Not everybody in Sacramento has supported that, but it's a smart thing to do to make sure we level off the difficult times, so we don't have to cut too many services and lay people off. Rainy day funds are absolutely critical, and I support helping and enhancing our rainy day fund. 2, more revenue. I don't want to cut programs. I don't want to cut services. We need to expand services. Therefore, we need to come together on Prop 13 reform. We almost had that in 2020. We have another opportunity coming up, I think either next year or 2 years later, to reform Prop 13 on the commercial side, to bring in what probably would be like $12 billion per year more into the state coffers, close to half of which will go towards public education in one way or another. And I absolutely support that effort. I will campaign on that, as I have in the past. So there's a lot we need to do, but we need to make sure that we reform, we keep those reforms in place, and do what we can to build our economy. I mean, most jobs that are created obviously are going to be private sector jobs in one way or another, whether it's healthcare or other parts, other industries. So let's help the economy grow by not getting in the way of industries that could expand, as long as they're clean and productive industries. Whether clean tech could be a great opportunity. We are a hub almost for clean tech. We could build upon that, creates jobs, creates a building economy, and therefore more tax revenue for the state.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Catherine Lieberger.
Yeah, I think number one, I'd say we've got to build up on the revenue side. Having a rainy day fund, certainly after the fact, being able to draw on that was helpful, but that rainy day fund was built up on cuts to public services. And we suffer because of that, not just public sector workers who year upon year have had to take cuts to their own incomes, but honestly, the public who rely on those services. So that's not a sustainable way going forward. I do think that we've got to reform Prop 13. That's outrageous. And we've got to continue to make a go at that. And as well, we've got to make, corporations pay their fair share. We managed back in 2012 to pass Proposition 30. It was a wealth tax that went to go to fund our schools. We've made efforts to try to fund our schools and communities. We are not going to have a sustainable way to make it through the business cycle if we are not going back to what, frankly, a raft of Republicans before us have managed to do, such as Eisenhower, which is to really understand that those who have wealth need to and benefit from the public good that provides the infrastructure and the roads that help create corporate wealth, that they've got to help pay for that as well. So I think that we've got to have that be a much bigger part of the equation.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Sandra Swanson.
Well, let me tell you, I served in the legislature during the recession, during a $34 billion deficit. And I'll tell you what I did, not what I'm going to do. And what I did is I opposed them trying to balance the budget on the backs of working people. So I opposed them laying off staff. I opposed them contracting out services. I opposed them cutting pensions. And leadership said to me at the time, well, you have to vote with the caucus to make these cuts. And I said, I'm not going to make cuts that will cost my district $25 million in certain services. And I'm not going to vote to cut in-home service care workers and cap their salaries. That is, and they're trying to protect people who need their services. And as a result, they said to me, well, if you don't vote for us, then we're going to take your chairmanship. And I didn't vote for them, and they did take my chairmanship. So if we're going into another recession and another budget like this, you better make sure that your representatives has the courage to stand up to both Democratic leadership and protect those things that are important to you. I was that kind of representative. I was a champion of working families during that recession. Look at the record, it's clear. And so that's what I would do. That's what I did. And that's what I would do again. Make sure that they don't balance the budget on the backs of working families. That is unacceptable. We need to generate more revenues. There's ways to do it. And that's what I would fight for.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Jesse Erguin.
Well, the budget is a reflection of our values, and I have a good understanding of our community's values, and I'll fight for those values in Sacramento. Make sure we bring back resources for this district. We need to do three things. We need to reform our state's tax policy. We need to grow our reserves, and we need to grow our tax base. In terms of reforming our state's tax policy, we need to change the way that taxes are generated in the state, to take it off the backs of the middle class and to hold large corporations accountable and make sure they're paying their fair share. That means we close the loophole in Prop 13 around commercial assessment. That means we look at an oil severance tax and we look at a wealth tax for the wealthiest people in the state. That will generate billions of dollars for us to increase investment in public education, our climate response, homeless services, all the things that we need as a state, because we are seeing a decrease in capital gains and we need to grow our tax base. In terms of reserves, we absolutely need to make sure we continue our investment in our rainy day fund. I introduced legislation which we passed to create our reserve in the city of Berkeley. That helped us weather a $40 million budget deficit during the pandemic, making sure we didn't lay off our workers and can maintain city services, make sure that we're investing in things like our response to COVID-19 and supporting our businesses. And we need to continue that commitment at the state level. Because emergencies are going to happen again, and we need to be prepared. And we need to grow our tax base. We need to invest in our clean energy economy. We need to invest in life science, and we need to create more jobs to make sure that we are coming out of this pandemic even stronger from an economic perspective. I'm proud in Berkeley that we have negotiated a $83 million agreement with UC Berkeley to allow them to expand and grow, a $30 million development agreement with Bayer Pharmaceuticals, our largest private employer. And we're growing our life science base. We have the largest increase in taxable square footage of any city in Alameda County. So we need to create jobs, we need to create investment so that we also can invest in public services as well.
Thank you so much. And then next up, we have Jovanka Beckles.
Thank you. I'm not going to take up the full 2 minutes because I really believe that there's a simple solution. And the solution is tax the freaking rich. Stop overtaxing the poor and the middle class. It's not right. Stop balancing the budget on the backs of the working class and the poor. It's not right. It's not fair. We have to reform Prop 13. We live in the fourth largest economy in the world, right? So that means that the funds are there. There is currently a little, reserve. I think we could, we could suspend the one-time and temporary spending, but the answer is simple. We have to have political will to tax the rich. And how do you know who you can trust to do that? Well, you can trust someone with a track record of taxing Chevron. We did that. We made sure that Chevron paid their fair share of taxes in Richmond and took that money and used it for public good. We used it to create scholarship programs for students in Richmond. We used that. We got some community benefits agreements from that. So when you have political will, people who are not taking any money from corporations, that's the person that you can trust to be unafraid and to fight courageously for the working class.
Thank you so much. And then finally, we have Ernesto Falcon.
Thank you. So we have to stabilize our revenues. It's not we cannot kind of persist with this boom bust surplus deficit structure, which is really connected to one-time actions that get taxed at a certain rate. And then when those actions disappear, our deficits grow. So we have to find ways to generate revenue and growth with opportunity. I think we have to also think about how we invest public dollars to invite opportunity and enable opportunity for more people. So, for example, new businesses and keeping businesses here and building more homes and inviting new people to come to live here and to become homeowners. All this is contingent on great schools, great access to daycare for young workers who are interested in staying here long term, and public safety. If we cannot provide the conditions and foundation of a thriving community, we can't expect businesses to stay. In fact, the closure of La Chapelle and Oakland, I attended that event, and it's very disheartening to see places that have been here for decades are leaving because we are not providing the investments necessary to provide the stability necessary for growth. If we don't do that, what we have is what's called the doom loop, where the revenue generating opportunities are disappearing with flight and leaving the communities, leaving the state in its entirety, which decreases revenues, which decreases our ability to invest in schools, decreases our ability to provide services. So we got to stabilize revenues. We got to grow revenues with new opportunity. We got to give more people more ways to own in order to generate more local property taxes for local services and schools. But all of these things have to be investments as well as rationalizations of our tax code. And when California's budget is healthy, I've been through this. I've gone through the California budget many times in my own work. When California's budget's healthy, that's how we created a $7 billion broadband infrastructure fund that I helped design. It's how we enabled the closure of the digital divide in this state. But then the very next year, we dealt with deficits that undermined the immediate progress, and we have to stabilize to make it more of an even process.
Thank you so much. All right, so our final question is on public safety. It's a two-part question. So public safety continues to be one of to be concerning issue among Alamedans and the Bay Area. We've seen this data increasing with auto thefts in our community and with theft and gun violence in our neighboring communities. While a lot of work is being done on the community level, everything from huge bonuses for police recruitment to the use of new technology, what can be done to help address this from the state level? It's not a unique issue, just the Bay Area. And the second part of that question is the Alameda Democrats are also interested in your plans, if any, for oversight of law enforcement, use of force, and to discourage bias policing of civilians. And so for the first person that we have on our list for this question is Catherine Lieberger.
Sure. We have to fund public safety. And I think that we have to think of public safety broadly, like who are public safety workers? We always think of police. It includes, of course, 911 operators. It includes, I think, expands to behavioral health people. It expands to, having fully staffed hospitals. And I think that teachers are public safety. There are so many aspects to all those who support the different parts of our lives that build community, that create public safety, and we have to fund it. I think, we can talk a lot about how we structure public safety, who responds to what, but I think that across the board, we are not staffed up for public safety in our schools. For teachers, for hospital workers, for, and for our first responders, the people who do come to pick up a call and respond in a crisis when they're sent. When it comes to oversight, I think that we're learning a lot, certainly the devastating stories over and over again that we've seen of abuses in policing. I think have forced us to start to really look at and take more seriously public oversight. I'm absolutely for it. I think it's got to be community-led, and it's got to be funded, again, not something that exists on paper, but something that really takes priority and really wins and reflects that it has the confidence of the most impacted communities.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Sandra Swanson.
Well, I believe crime is one of the major issues in this campaign. I was born in Oakland, California, and I'm disgusted by the amount of crime that happens on a daily basis. I served as the vice mayor of Oakland, and so I still get these reports every evening about the police counts that are out there, and they're numerous. We have to make sure there are consequences for these activities that are taking place in our community. It is just unacceptable I was watching television. I saw a lady being drugged down the street because she wouldn't let go of her purse. And, you know, and what's the consequences of that kind of activity taking place? I know in Oakland, we don't have enough police officers. You know, we don't have enough resources. And I think we have to figure out how do we work with law enforcement to make sure we have adequate force and to make sure that we change the laws in a way to where there's consequences for these activities that we have witnessed. It is unacceptable for us to be closing businesses because they're afraid to stay open late at night. There was a robbery where these thugs ran into a restaurant, held everyone up in the restaurant. Well, as far as I'm concerned, for that time they were in there, that's kidnapping. And so what do our laws say about that? How do we make sure that there are consequences for people that are committing these crimes? And so I think Sacramento can take another look at the new kind of crimes that are taking place out there. I believe these are organized, and it's going to take organized effort to thwart it. And so all of our agencies need to get involved, and that's what I would see happen.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Jesse Ergin.
Well, thank you. I agree that this is probably one of the most important issues facing our region. And, you know, as a mayor, I'm dealing with this issue on the ground in my community. And I'm proud that Berkeley is advancing a comprehensive approach to public safety, not just focused on hiring more police, not just focused on using technology to assist in crime prevention and deterrence, but also looking at how we can have unarmed civilian responders to deal with mental health calls, public health issues, and investing in upstream investments to make sure we can provide positive alternatives for young people, do community-based gun violence interdiction and violence prevention. We need to invest in all those things to address safety comprehensively. But I fundamentally think we need a combination of prevention and accountability. We need to prevent crime from happening using some of the things that I talked about, and we need accountability for the people that do commit crimes. It's unacceptable that women are being mugged in Oakland and they're being dragged to get their purses stolen. It's unacceptable that gun violence is so common in parts of our region. And I'm even seeing it in my city. And so I want to go to Sacramento to make sure we have more resources to hire more police, more civilian responders, so we can have non-armed alternatives, and to make sure we can have more collaboration with CHP, with federal and state resources, and local governments to address safety comprehensive, including organized crime, because a lot of what we're seeing is organized crime as well. And oversight and accountability of our police force is also extremely important to that as well. That's why I helped write Measure II, our charter amendment that created our independent civilian police accountability board in Berkeley. That's why I've led efforts to address racial profiling in our city. That's why I'm advocating for a new Department of Community Safety to look at how we can address safety comprehensively. And so I want to go to Sacramento to advance a comprehensive approach to public safety, to make sure that we have safe and healthy neighborhoods and we're addressing safety at all levels in our communities.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Jovanka Beckles.
You know, I am the only elected official and candidate on this panel who can say, who can not just talk about what I think could work, but I can actually talk about what actually has worked. Richmond is no longer on the top most violent cities in America. And the reason for that happened when I was on the Richmond City Council, along with my other corporate free candidates, progressive candidates. I addressed the root causes of crime. I'm a mental health professional, 34 years, I've been doing this. So what we have to do when we talk about addressing the root causes of crime, what did we do? Well, what I personally do is I help to heal the community through mental health services, through wraparound program. I help create the A3 in Contra Costa County, which is everybody, everywhere, anytime. And that's basically a community response team that doesn't involve police. So we reduce crime because we address the root causes of crime. We didn't address the causes of crime by increasing police budget and increasing police. We provided resources. I was one of the folks who brought about Ban the Box. Ban the Box, when people come back into their community from being incarcerated and you don't provide opportunities, they're going to re-offend. So what we did in Richmond was we took off that question. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? We took that question off of the applications to allow people to have the opportunity for a second chance. And it worked, and it does work. And I'm proud to say that as a result of what we did in Richmond, the state now has a statewide Ban the Box. But we also need communities, schools. Look at what we've done in Richmond, and that's what I'll continue to do at the state level. We have to fund innovative, out-of-the-box approaches.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ernesto Falcon.
So sometimes I feel like I'm living in two worlds here. If things are getting better or they're not. I would say objectively, empirically, they are not getting better. So many of these experiments, I think, are missing the fundamental reality that I am hearing from families regularly in house parties, that things are worse, that crime is up, that it is unsafe, that families are leaving. And we need to change course. We need to acknowledge that the direction we've gone these last handful of years, while at the time felt right, maybe have led us to where we are today, and we need to change course and recalibrate. We can't do things like miss grants, as what's happening both in Oakland and Berkeley for public safety money. We have to think about how we talk about policing in a way that actually incentivizes the next generation of people to seek out police work. Because right now, that's the number one issue I hear from many officers, is they struggle to recruit because of our politics. We villainize the entirety of the police departments rather than really isolate the bad apples, if you will, the individuals. There's always a bad person in many areas of government, and I'm not against accountability. In fact, I've worked in the civil liberties space. I'm very familiar with that. But we have to change course. We have to reject some of the extreme politics that has driven our communities where we are right now. We have to acknowledge that we are short-staffed to provide safety at the numbers they are. This is about uniforms on patrol. You need to increase the number of people available at any given time to increase the response rates, to increase the probability of crimes being caught as they happen, not way after the fact, and at the end of the day, if we cannot wrestle and grapple of a new direction, how we talk about policing and how we improve the public safety, and talk about how we actually need increased numbers without hedging our bets about that, we're going to be struggling with this for far longer than we need, and families will suffer, business will suffer, and we will question why we didn't catch on early enough.
Thank you so much. And finally, we have Dan Cobb.
Thank you. Obviously, this is a very challenging issue, a set of issues. Every police chief I've ever met, both in Oakland and in other cities throughout the state, and I've met many, have always said it takes a comprehensive approach to reduce crime. And they're absolutely right. Violence prevention, violence intervention, and enforcement, serious enforcement. It's all three. It can't just be one or the other or the other. And that's why at the state level, I took a tour of San Quentin prison several years ago, and we became very clear, as I think I already knew, and I talked with 40 inmates and got involved in 2 of the rehabilitation programs. And the warden told me that inmates who go through those programs for at least a couple of years or more have a much lower recidivism rate. Well, that's what we want. We need lower recidivism if we're going to reduce crime and help people who need help. But also reentry. If the state is not helping cities and counties and NGOs fund necessary reentry services, we will fail. Rehabilitation in the state prisons, which will eventually allow us to close some state prisons because we'll be successful in reducing recidivism. Reentry services at the local level. That includes job readiness, job training, public education, a whole range of things. We have to up that game, and that is a financial situation that we need to get counties and the state to do much more. Grants to locals. The state could give more grants to local jurisdictions on a whole range of these things. Gun violence. I will stand up to the NRA as I have time and time again. I authored a law in Oakland to not only ban ghost guns, but to ban the parts that make ghost guns. And a lot of cities haven't done that yet. So and the OPD says that will help them confiscate more guns. FBI, we need FBI to help with investigations. What's the third word in FBI? Investigations. They do a good job in helping solve the most serious crimes. We need more FBI investigators to help us in our largest cities to investigate and solve the most serious of crimes. Violence prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And we can't let that be the enemy of police accountability. I was the author of the ballot measure that created an Oakland Police Commission, one of the strongest in the country, and I will continue to be a strong supporter of police oversight. But enforcement and police activity can't be the enemy of police oversight. We need both of those things, not just one or the other.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for all of your questions. I'm delighted to have you as guests of the City of Alameda Democratic Club and all of you that came. Finally, we're just going to close out with a 1-minute remark from each candidate, just to leave us with what you want us to know about you, and based on the topics we discussed this evening, or just on anything, any events you have coming up, and also if you have any information about where we can find more information about your campaign. Quickly, let me reset my timer to 1 minute really quickly here. But we're going to start out with Jovanka Beckles. And whenever you're ready.
Oh, no, there we are. I don't know why I have a hard time finding the unmute button sometimes. Thank you so much, y'all, for your time. You know, my wife and I lived and raised our son in Alameda. He attended elementary school, middle school, and high school there. And we didn't move until he graduated high school, Alameda High, because Alameda High School District is great. And I think that every child should have a great education. So I'm running for this seat and hope to be your representative, because the people of District 7 know me. They trust me. I've been in their homes. I've worked with their children. I have kept their children and the adults alive and out of jail. I've made sure that they receive, that the workers in my city receive hazard pay during the pandemic as an AC Transit worker. And I saved a lot of folks from evictions. I've built more affordable homes here than most of the candidates here. I've walked in legislative halls, school halls, jail halls, and been in playgrounds. And so the voters of Contra Costa County and Alameda County, the voters of this region want me to be able to represent them. I'm endorsed by many community organizations, elected officials, rank and file union members who have pledged their votes for me, because I'm one of them and I'm one of you, and I'm ready to go to work on day one in Sacramento to represent you and fight for you boldly and unequivocally to get more affordable housing, healthcare, and education. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ernesto Falcon.
I want to thank the Alameda County Democratic Club for hosting this forum. I want to thank my wife, who, with her support, she is graciously putting my kids to sleep at this time, or at least I hope they're asleep. I'm running for office because I'm worried about the future. We're going the wrong way when we look at the cost of living, homelessness, public education, and public safety. We need to change course, and we need to think about how we govern differently in order to keep the East Bay a place for families and businesses to thrive and grow again. If I'm elected and serve a full term, I would term out just around the time my kids become adults and leave home for college. So my metric of success as a senator will be ensuring that they have the same opportunities that my parents had and that I have had. I'm running to restore opportunity for everyone. So let's get serious about building new homes. Let's get serious about stabilizing our communities to keep people here in the East Bay. If you're with me, visit my website at ernestofalcone.com and help me give power back to the people.
Thank you. Next up, we have Catherine Leiber.
Sure. So Alameda is not a perfect place, but it is ranked as one of the best places to live in the United States. So it's the kind of neighborhood where if people can afford where they live and they have a thriving downtown and a neighborhood. That's, I think, the kind of thing that everybody deserves. I know what it's like to be worried for my kids and to dream for my kids. I want to be and will economic opportunity for those kids. I think that's an important part of that. When people get to live where they work, in a place like Alameda or a place that they're choosing, because they earn enough to contribute to their community, then we begin to solve for a lot of the things that
Thank you. I think we're having a connection problem a little bit there. All right. Next up, we have Jesse Arreguin.
Well, thank you, the city of Alameda, for this opportunity. I'm running for state senate to provide bold and experienced leadership. I'm running on my 18 years as an elected official, including 7 years leading the city of Berkeley through very challenging times. I'm proud of the progress we're making to address our region's biggest challenges, building thousands of new homes, compassionately addressing homelessness, addressing the public safety crisis in our region, combating climate change. And I want to bring my experience, the relationships I built with regional leaders. I'm honored to have been endorsed by over 60 elected officials in Senate District 7, the mayor of Alameda, school board director Jennifer Williams, the mayors of Hercules, the council members in Richmond, council members in Oakland. They all have endorsed me and trust me because they know I have a proven track record of leadership. I'm a regionalist. I'm going to work and build collaborative partnerships to address challenges and get things done for this district. And I'd be honored to represent Alameda. We have an event coming up on October 25th at Almanac at 5:30 p.m. Please join us. And Jesse.vote is my website. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next up, we have Sandre Swanson.
Thank you. I represented the city of Alameda in the assembly for 3 terms. I appreciated the votes that I received. I'm interested in going to the state senate to develop full service schools, to deal with this crime wave, and to make sure that we handle and close out the encampments of the homeless with humanitarian solutions. I think that public policy is about helping people where they need help. Right now, people are faced with this crime wave that they're afraid to even go out at night. Oakland needs at least 1,000 officers on the street. They need additional resources. This crime wave that we're facing is a crisis. And I want to make sure that you understand that I do understand that, and I want to address it. So go to my website, sandreswanson.net. You can look at my record, you can see what I've accomplished, and you will notice that I have done these things. And the likelihood is that if you help me and get to the Senate, that I will do these things again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And then next up, we have Dan Kalb. And then I think we can give a few seconds back to Catherine because our internet came out to kind of finish up her remarks, but we'll go with Dan.
Thank you. I know that there's no such thing as waving a magic wand if you want to make real substantial positive change. It takes determination, skill, tremendous hard work on complex policy matters to move government in ways that address the big issues we face today and tomorrow. And that's the kind of work that I'm very good at. My record as a city council member for 11 years shows that. My record before that, over 30 years of policy experience, including 10 years working with the Union of Concerned Scientists, actually drafting legislation, working the entire soup to nuts process, shows that. I've worked on issues of public education, on affordable housing, climate justice, clean energy, public safety, a strong advocate for clean money elections or public libraries. There are a range of issues. I don't just vote a certain way. I work really hard to get into the details, the weeds, and I get things done. That's my record. That's my reputation, and I'm proud of that. Please check my website out, dankalb.net. I'm endorsed by the mayor of Alameda, by a whole slew of local elected officials up and down the district, by 12 former state legislators and 1 current state senator who know my experience and my ability to get things done. I would love to have the support of this club. Thank you so very much for your time. Again, dankalb.net.
Thank you so much. And then finally, just Catherine, that kind of close out your remarks. We kind of lost you about towards the end there.
Thanks for that. I'll just finish to say that I know change doesn't come from a title, but it certainly helps to have people with a title who are grounded in the experiences and lives of people who don't. It's why I'm running for California State Senate, to be the senator for all the folks that live in Alameda.
Thank you so much. All right, so that closes it out. We actually are over time, so we're not going to get to our lightning hot topics that we normally have at the end of our endorsement meetings like we typically do. But I just want to say I'm incredibly grateful on behalf of the City of Alameda Democratic Club on all of the candidates who were able to come and speak to us today and let us know their positions so we can get to know you better as our potential representative for Senate District 7. This process is incredibly important for the democratic process, and it makes me just filled with joy that everyone shows up to get involved and gets actually involved in this process, because this is what democracy looks like. This is what it is. So as a club, we're going to go ahead and we're going to post this video available online on our YouTube page. Hopefully it's available tonight or tomorrow, and we'll send that out to our members. All of the eligible members that are able to vote in this, that have paid their dues and attended at least one meeting before this meeting, are eligible. And we will send out our OPA vote so that all of our members can actually vote. If any member, according to our charter, receives I think it's 55%, Meredith, correct me if I'm wrong, of a majority, then they will get our endorsement. Otherwise, we will not announce any particular winner in this case. And so we'll go through with our process. But I want to thank everyone for coming, all of our candidates. This is fantastic. And it's really good to see everyone again. Now we're going to go off on our process. And one bit of club business, I have to announce per charter, this is November. I have to create a selection committee for our board next year. If anyone is interested in serving on our board and wants to be considered by our recommendations as one of our recommendations as part of our selection committee, contact me or use our alamedademo@gmail.com email address and get in contact with the board. Next month, when we do our U.S. Congress, we're doing, what are we doing next? U.S. Senate is our next second Wednesday meeting for the City of Alameda Democratic Club. At that meeting, we'll probably do our formal vote for the board for next year and take endorsements or take any candidates that want to particularly run for next year as part of that process. But other than that, I want to thank everyone for coming. This was fantastic.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Good night.
Thank you all.
night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, members.